Having made these critical observations, I would also stress the possibility for positive change represented by our organization. We have youth and exuberance on our side and a membership that is largely in its 20s and 30s. We have attracted, beside old-timers like me, as I note in my introductory paragraph, well-educated young professionals, and this group considers itself to be on the right, but not of the current conservative movement. These post-paleo conservatives, to whom I've alluded in website commentaries, have come out here tonight in force, and they are radical in the sense in which William F. Buckley once defined a true right, an oppositional force that tries to uncover the root causes of our political and cultural crises and then to address them. And when I speak about the post-paleos, it goes without saying that I'm referring to a growing communion beyond this organization. It is one that now includes TachyMag, VDare.com, and other websites that are willing to engage sensitive, timely subjects. Needless to say, we'll be dealing with such subjects in a scholarly fashion at this conference. A question that has been asked of me and of others in this room is, why don't we try to join the official conservative movement? This movement controls hundreds of millions of dollars, TV networks, strings of newspapers and magazines, multitudinous foundations and institutes, and a bevy of real and bleach blondes on Fox News. This is not even to mention the movement's influence on the GOP, the leaders of which dutifully recite neoconservative slogans. To whatever extent the GOP still has something that can be described as a mind, it is what neoconservative surgeons have implanted. Why then don't the post-paleos ask to be admitted to this edifice of power? Even as the beneficiaries of second or even third-rung post, our younger members would be better off financially than they are in their present genteel hand-to-mouth existences. It is easy to imagine that even the secretaries at AEI, Heritage, or the Weekly Standard earn more than many of those in this room. More than me. Movement conservatives certainly have the wind in their sails, and perhaps most of us have been tempted, at one time or another, to join them in order to benefit from their considerable wealth. Allow me to suggest two reasons that most of us have not gone over to the dark side. One, that side will not have us, and that has treated us, in contrast to such worthies as black nationalists, radical feminists, and open borders advocates, as being unfit for admittance into the political conversation. We are not viewed as honorable dissenters, but depicted as subhuman infidels, or ignored in the same way as one would a senile uncle who occasionally wanders into one's living room. This imperial ban has been extended even to brilliant social scientists and statisticians who are viewed as excessively intimate with the wrong people. That is with those who stand outside the camp that the neocons occupied and now share with neoliberals and the center-left. I suspect that most of us, including those who belong to my children's generation, would not be trusted, even if we feigned admiration for Martin Luther King Jr., Joe Lieberman, and Scoop Jackson, and even if we called for having open borders with Mexico and for attacking and occupying Iran. Even then a credibility gap would be cited to justify our further marginalization. But there is another factor beside necessity which keeps us where we are. We are convinced that we are right in our historical and cultural observations, while those who have quarantined us are wrong. This is indeed my position, and it is one that the officers of this organization, as far as I know, fully share. But to move from theory to practice, there are two counsels that I would strenuously urge. First, we must try to do what is possible rather than what lies beyond our limited material resources, what we can do to achieve in the near term as opposed to what we might be able to do in the fullness of time, is to gain recognition as an intellectual right, and one that is critical of the neoconservative-controlled conservative establishment. Although that establishment does permit some internal dissent, and has even provided support for a handful of worthwhile scholars and journalists, it is at least as close as were the communist parties of Eastern Europe before the collapse of the Soviet Empire. But unlike those now vanished dominations, the neocon media empire is not particularly porous, and with the help of the left, it is more than able at this point to keep out of public notice any serious challenge from the right. It is precisely our goal to become such a challenge, and it is my hope that a younger generation will acquire the resources to do so and will know how to deploy them. Second, if we wish to advance our cause, we must meditate on the successes of our most implacable enemies. The neocons marched non-stop through the institutions and treasuries of the right, and they took them over almost without breaking a sweat. And they did so without themselves having to move to the right. In fact, they converted the right to the left by equating their mostly leftist politics with reasonable or non-extremist conservatism. They then pushed into near oblivion anyone on the right who resisted their transformation. And as one of their victims, I certainly begrudge them their successes. But as much as I might rage over neocon mendacity and movement conservative gullibility and cowardice, I can also understand the magnitude of the domination achieved. And as painful as it may be for us, we must try to grasp that in Machiavelli's language, it was not just fortuna, but also virtu, resourcefulness, that was at work in making possible our enemies' spectacular achievement. Their opponents failed not only because they were obviously outgunned, but also because we were less well organized, less able to network, and less capable of bearing internal grievances. A friend once noted my ambivalence when I described my enemies. My repugnance for their shallow ideas and grubby personalities has always been mixed with deep admiration for how they stick together like a band of brothers. It is this side of neoconservative history that we must keep in mind and imitate if we intend to climb out of the oblivion into which they've cast us. Our enemies may be vulgar, but they are not fools, and their indubitable successes have much to teach anyone who hopes to supplant them and ultimately to do to them what they have done to us. Thank you.